why the Chinese government has been cracking down on Bitcoin mining in the country like never before. And as it turns out, it's not because the government is worried about Bitcoin or even all that interested in Bitcoin's ESG narrative. This isn't about crypto at all. It's about China's carbon neutrality policy, which was formalized in late 2020 and over the past few months have been doing some pretty serious damage to the country's construction, manufacturing, transportation, and petrochemicals industries. So as power fueling these industries get rebalanced from coal to hydro and other renewable sources, BTC mining at the moment is being put on hold because there's these other more urgent production needs to attend to in China. So I think this is a pretty significant part of the Bitcoin mining narrative that is missing from commentary in social media and mainstream news. Initial thoughts, I wanted to throw it first to Will, because Will, you've got that mining background from Compass.
Yeah, I still need to read David's article, but I think just from what I've heard from talking with you guys and other people talking about that article so far, it does seem like that is a pretty credible thesis for why Bitcoin mining has kind of been axed in the country. I think on a high level, and we see this in the States, regulators and political officials just like Bitcoin's a very small one. It's a small thing. It's big to us because we're in the Bitcoin industry, but to them, it's a very small market. It's very easy to just kind of flick it off their shoulder and kind of focus on things that matter more to them as like a political community. So I think it's like a tenable idea. I think there's some other reports out there that it has to do with like social consensus and cohesion there, where there's been like moments where there's been like Ponzi schemes or whatnot break out, and they didn't want that going into the 100th year anniversary of the CCP. So they wanted like some more social peace, and they saw Bitcoin mining as one kind of tenable or like tangible, like way to kind of crack down on Bitcoin itself in the country during a bull run. So yeah, there's a lot of ideas out there on why Bitcoin mining kind of got kicked out right now. I think a lot of the attention now is turning towards, can Bitcoin mining return to that country? And I know there's some firms in the country who are just turned off their machines and are waiting a little bit, and they'll turn them back on and see if they can keep producing coins. Zach, I want to throw it down to you.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, I think that, some of the reporting coming out of David Pan and Emily Parker's team on our global macro desk is doing a really good job at looking at this local context, right? I mean, we saw that video clip. It had the 100th year anniversary. That was July 1st. That's really key, right? This crackdown on crypto mining in China absolutely exists in the context of national party politics. So I think that's really interesting, and I think this piece by David is just a fantastic example. Sorry, excuse me, of digging in and looking at these local contexts that shape a global network. I saw Naomi had her hand up, so I'm going to throw to her.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting. We always talk about the non-fungibility of energy and how just because, there's excess energy somewhere, it doesn't mean that that energy would necessarily be used elsewhere. And we kind of use that as a reason to back up why Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, their energy usage, it's not as simple as saying, well, they use X amount, therefore it's bad, because that energy might not have been used by anyone else. But what I thought was interesting about this article was talking about their plan to redirect a lot of the excess hydropower, talking about how, when you don't have the wet season, and currently like it's really hot in certain areas and they're having power outages, there's a lack of energy, and so all this excess energy that was being used by hydro plants, they're just hoping to actually build out the infrastructure to redirect that to some of the areas that don't have as much energy. So I thought that was interesting. It's something that I hadn't realized before. But on the other side of things, I want to push back in some sense against the narrative that it's just about this carbon emission schedule and their targets, because I mean, it's very clear that Bitcoin is very threatening to China and to the Chinese regime. So I don't think we could say that it's one or the other. I would say that fear factor definitely has a play in how hard they're clamping down on this, especially when you compare, the amount of energy really that is being used by the mining sector compared to all of the other sectors, and yet they're coming down so hard on cryptocurrency. So I do think fear factor has a major role in all of this, and the government wanting to maintain control of the money supply.
So I think that the Venn diagram of like different centralized systems, right? You look at China, it's effectively, as far as from a governance perspective, it's a centralized system. You look at the United States, effectively a centralized system. And then within that, you have like Bitcoin and other types of cryptocurrencies with the various decentralized networks and the various decentralized participants in there. And I think what you see here is not so much about China, it's about what is the network doing. And what the network's doing is that to the extent that there are losses around mining in China and that those folks are not able to really perform the function for the network anymore, we're seeing the system naturally rebalance. And we're seeing, frankly, you know, for the crash that we've seen in China, we're seeing a boom in elsewhere, right? And again, it's just kind of this natural rebalancing where there's nobody in charge of where Bitcoin miners are going. There's nobody licensing people to begin operating now. It's just a self-correcting system that really can take anything that gets thrown at it. And I think that this has been one of the biggest examples of that.